Hello everyone, and welcome back to the theme component of the Blue Gender Retrospective. For this episode, I'd like to talk on the ecological themes of Blue Gender and how that they prove that above all, balance is what should be strived for the most. When looking at the ecological themes of Blue Gender, I feel that there are two very important questions that the series proposes and then proceeds to answer for us. The first question is, what is humanity's place in the world? When I say world, I mean the literal world, the literal food chain and ecological systems present. And two, is said world inherently nurturing towards humanity or hostile towards it? Now, to answer the first question, i.e., what is humanity's place in the world? Well, Blue Gender has a very complex answer to that. And its answer is something along the lines of humans are children of the earth and have a place into it. However, they should be mindful of their actions in order to maintain said place. Blue Gender comes to this conclusion by approaching humanity in two very different ways, and looking at humanity in seemingly opposing views. On one hand, it tends to look at humans as outside of the natural processes of the earth itself, i.e., as something that is not part of the food chain, something that is not part of the various elemental cycles present, and is something that only serves to disrupt and destroy said cycles and therefore the environment. According to this view, humans have sort of evolved out of the natural systems of the world and therefore are much less conscious of them on a subconscious level. In this viewpoint, humanity has basically evolved out of the systems present and therefore doesn't really have any connection to them. This, combined with various technological advances, means that humans can be much more destructive and not as strongly impacted by said destruction. Humans can, and often do, have a very destructive impact on various environments present and the ecology of the world itself. In this viewpoint, humans are almost entirely negative towards the Earth and very detached from it, as they've sort of lost their native connection to it. In Blue Gender, this manifests in various ways. We can see this in the fact that most humans now live in space. They've literally detached themselves from the Earth. We can also see this in the fact that much of humanity views the Blues as inherent monsters, although they're not necessarily that, and more on that later. The central point of this view, of this take on humans' place in the world, is that humanity is bad for the world. That humanity has no place in it because humanity has essentially detached itself from it. And while Blue Gender does seem to state this from time to time, I don't think that's actually the point it's trying to make in its entirety, because it's balanced out by looking at humanity through a very different lens. As Blue Gender does take time to actually look at humanity through the lens that humans are native to the Earth, and therefore are inherently part of the systems present. Now, while humanity has evolved various technologies to shape the world around it, it is still native to the world around it, and it still therefore has some kind of connection and stake to it. We can see this in various human colonies that survive in the world of Blue Gender. Most of the surviving groups tend to be nomads, or villagers, or less technologically advanced people who live more in attune with nature. These are people who are more aware of the native processes, of the native ecology, of the needs of the world in addition to their own. As such, they are people who are living more with nature. In this way, Blue Gender does show us that humans can and do maintain some kind of connection to the world, and can therefore sort of reclaim their birthright, that they can sort of reconcile with the world in order to get back to living good and productive lives. However, by taking two completely different viewpoints, Blue Gender does lead to a second question, which is the world inherently caring or hostile towards humanity? And where do the blue fit into all this? Now, as mentioned earlier, Blue Gender seems to say that the place of humans in the world is somewhere in the middle, where they are native to the world and they do have a place in it. However, they shouldn't get too carried away, as should their destructive impulses remain unchecked, they might bring negative consequences to both the world and themselves. All of this lends itself to the idea of balance, that in the end, what environments strive for is balance, maintaining stable environments, maintaining stable cycles, maintaining stable interactions, maintaining stable populations. And that balance, above all, is needed to maintain life. Now, this manifests itself in many ways, whether it be the food cycle, the phosphorus cycle, internal body temperature regulation. There's a lot of different ways of seeing this idea that stability is very important for life itself. However, in Blue Gender, what this means is that the Earth didn't necessarily seek to destroy humanity, but simply to keep it in balance. i.e., that the destructive impulses of humanity were getting too much for the Earth to bear, and thus needed to be sort of reduced. I don't believe that the Earth of Blue Gender was necessarily trying to destroy humanity, but simply trying to restore balance to the Earth itself, and since the most destructive party present was humans, humanity was forced to pay a price for, quote, getting a little out of line. Now, this price, of course, was the invasion of the Blues, which serve as a sort of brutal enforcer for the will of the Earth. However, I do not think this makes the Blue inherently malevolent. See, one of the great ironies of Blue Gender is that while the Blue are the main antagonistic force, they aren't necessarily a moral force. They're simply brute beasts. They don't have a conscience or an ideology which drive them to destroy humans. They simply eat them because they're animals and they're hungry. Now, as creatures which therefore lack a conscience and reasoning, I don't think it's right to call them evil. I don't think they're good. It's very obvious that they're killing a lot of innocent people. However, they're not doing that because they're evil or because they are ideologically motivated or anything. They're doing it because they're hungry. It's the same as if you found a starved bear and the bear attacked you because it was hungry. It's not attacking you out of malevolence, it's attacking you out of a drive to survive, out of a drive to eat, out of simple primal desires, which, well, humanity does have moral codes to regulate such things. Animals don't necessarily, and therefore, again, I think it's wrong to say that the Blue are inherently evil. In fact, they're just a sort of twisted manifestation of this idea of stability and the need for it. You see, the Blue were created to destroy the humans because the humans were destroying the Earth. They were created to bring balance to the Earth when you think about it, as by taking out the humans, they would lower the negative impact of the humans and therefore help the Earth recover from all the destruction caused by humanity. In this way, the Blue could be seen as kind of good even if you're the Earth itself or the ecosystems present. It's relatively obvious that while the Blue are very destructive, they don't seem to destroy a lot of the life other than humans, and that they do seem to do relatively okay in the wild itself. A lot of the wild habitats we see throughout Blue Gender do seem to be pretty healthy, whether or not there are Blue present or not. Again, it's very ironic when you think about it, because the Blue came into being because humanity disrupted the balance of the Earth, and then humanity's fight against the Blue is a sort of literal direct fight against the balancers of the Earth. It's a continuation of humanity fighting the ecological balance of the Earth itself. Again, I don't think the Blue are good, but I don't think they're evil. They're simply animals serving the purpose of a greater system present. And this system is one which seems to be impartial. To answer the question of whether or not the Earth is caring or hostile towards humans, I think Blue Gender goes out of its way to say that it's neither. It's dispassionate and simply maintains balance above all. Now, balance is neither negative or positive, but it is an equilibrium of the two. What this means is that humans and species in general can have circumstances provided for them which are very positive for them, but they can also have circumstances provided for them which are very negative. It's a sort of luck of the draw thing, and nothing is necessarily set in stone. While humanity is attacked by the Blue and shooed off from the world and kind of forced to rough it in space for a while, the ones that do stay on the world and live in a sort of environmentally friendly sort of way seem to get along with it pretty well. The nomadic herders in Kazakhstan and the village people in South America don't really seem to have any real problem with the Blue, seem quite content with their natural and simple existence. While these two populations have been dealt very different hands by the Earth and have had very different interactions with it and probably opinions of it, those hands were dealt by the same Earth, i.e. the different fates were arbitrated by the same party, meaning that there isn't any sort of universal policy applied to all human populations. Now, obviously, the human populations in Blue Gender are hit very hard. However, those that seem to be hit the hardest are also those which probably have the most detrimental effect on the Earth's environment, that is, urban and industrialized societies. When we look at all the ruined cityscapes, it's very obvious that the Earth is kind of annoyed with the pollution and detriment that those urban conglomerations have brought. However, just because a majority of humans live in cities, it doesn't mean that the Earth of Blue Gender is targeting humans equally. As, again, the nomadic herders of Kazakhstan and the various small villages we see prove that the Earth is fine with humans as long as they sort of live in step with it, that they're in touch with their environment. All of this boils down to Blue Gender simply asking the viewer to be more aware of the Earth itself, and to not think that humanity alone can surpass the Earth, because at the end of the day, we all do need it, and we must realize our place within it. We even see this with the Blue themselves, who, while seemingly the favored balancers of the Earth, must pay the ultimate price to the balance itself once their purpose is served. Once the Blue become the overpopulators of the world and the destructors that the humans once were, they themselves are forced to basically destroy themselves in order to maintain the Earth's equilibrium. This is another point supporting the idea that the Earth is neither hostile nor caring, that oftentimes it's just dispassionate, and that it's up to us to navigate that as best as possible. That it's up to humanity to try and balance the environment and its needs with the needs of humanity and its own progress and technological advancement. That at the end of the day, it's above all about balance.